is settled.
Right.
And so now the same thing is dragged over into the scientific area, and they say to skeptics like John and myself, we're not going to publish what you say, and we're fortunate to talk to this particular venue, because the science is settled.
Right.
The argument is over, done, and we're done with it, and so on. And so that's...
Well, just let me, I want to insert something. There's another very worrisome thing that happened a half a dozen months ago.
Yeah.
At East Anglia University in Great Britain, that scientific group were responsible for accumulating historical temperatures around the world and then making projections. They did this with ice borings, they did it with tree rings, and actual temperature measuring stations that have been in existence for 150, 160, 70 years. Now it turns out a great deal of their data has been corrupt. They've been pushing and fudging the numbers. When asked to have the original data that they recorded in order to make these conclusions, and ask for peer review on the original data, it turns out they've lost all the data, and so that original data is not available for independent review. And so all we have to do is go on their verbal alibis, is saying, yeah, we were pretty careless, but being pretty careless, we're still pretty serious.
What do you think?
It's a very embarrassing thing for the whole community.
Yeah, right. But it sounds like the climate scientists are acting more like political scientists with an agenda.
Unfortunately, that's a pretty close observation, because remember, these scientists naturally are funded from a variety of sources, industry, governments, the United Nations, and it's to their advantage to come up with a belief and proof in their own minds that what they are saying has scientific validity.
Right. It's almost like the global warming is a myth spun by biased researchers.
I'd say that.
Well, I know that's kind of pretty fair to say that.
Well, you know, in this whole area, there are some real practical problems. And let me tell you one, the practical problem of temperature measurement. Originally, about 6,000 temperature measuring stations around the world, most of them land-based. Now, the database that they use at East Anglia University, etc., is down to about 1,500 land-based temperature bases. The man that is in charge of the data at East Anglia University was quoted as saying that I've been working for 25 years on this project, and I am not about to share the data that I've accumulated and now subsequently lost with these independent outside people. Why should I do that? They may, and I'm paraphrasing here, I have the exact quote in another book that I have, they may find that I have made an error. And true science looks for what is the truth. They don't look for what happens to be convenient, like people would like to have, and gee, we'd really like to do this. I was in product management for many years, and our products would fail if we made them because I liked this particular feature, if in fact they failed in practice so the customer couldn't use it.
Or was making money for the company. I'm
exactly.
wondering if, some of that is going on. Do you feel that global warming is induced by human activity? What are your feelings about that? We don't have that much time left, and I'd like to get that question answered in your opinions.
I don't know. I'm agnostic. There's no data that exists
to prove it definitively.
To prove it one way or the other. We don't know.
So that's what you're really saying, that you're not sure that it's being caused by human activity. When all the newspapers that you read, everything that I'm reading right now, and everything that's coming out on television says that it is caused by human activity.
Well, look, it's warmed up by maybe a degree Fahrenheit in the last 150 years, but it was coming out of the world was coming out of the mini gold age, the mini ice age at that time, and so we're climbing out of a cold trough there, and so maybe it's reasonable to expect, and maybe we're glad to have 1 degree or so of warming.
But all this stuff that's going to go, we're going to, because of global warming, we're telling people that they can't drive this, they can't drive that, they have to have windmills, they have to have solar panels. They have to have, I mean, everything so that we don't use any kind of fossil fuels and everything else. Are they going to get into it and make money? You know, people coming in and putting your solar panels, and if you find out that this has all these things really have nothing to do with what is really happening, all this money that's going to be put out, what do you think about that? Who's going to make all this money? And then it'll find out that nothing that they're doing, it's going to be a complete flop.
The only reason in solar panels and wind power, just to take those two, only reason that companies are making money and the people are earning wages building this stuff because it's heavily subsidized. If it had to stand on itself, wind power, solar power, had to stand on itself in the free market, it'd be bankrupt. It absolutely cannot be done. It's the cost to generate a megawatt of power by wind versus other things, the factor is in the order of 10, 20 times greater to do it by wind power. It just is not an efficient way to do that.
And one of you were telling me, what country was it, in Finland or Denmark?
Denmark.
Denmark. Yeah. About the wind power is being generated not just only because when there's no wind,
you have to have a backup power.
What's the backup power?
So every kilowatt of wind power that you have around the world, or solar power, if you're going to use it to power our society as we know it today, has to be backed up someplace with something that is running now in case the sun doesn't shine, the wind doesn't blow as hard as you thought it was.
So you're almost saying that some of the data that has been manipulated and climate change fears as overblown. I mean, we got just a couple of minutes to talk about that. We got exactly 2 minutes to talk about it.
The thing is, to measure the temperatures on an average basis is very difficult because you have these temperature measuring stations that have been placed, as you said, over the past 50, 100 years. Now development is going around these temperature measuring stations, and now it is generally warmer, a heat island effect around these temperature measuring stations. So how do you account for the fact that it's warmer than it was on average? Well, so you have to make an adjustment.
You make an adjustment, and that causes an argument, and how are you making the adjustment?
Exactly. Exactly the problem.
And is global warming all that bad?
It's not like you go out and measure your temperature outside your window.
But is global warming all that bad? That people that have been in a colder place, now it's warmer, now warmer, then it's colder. Is it all that bad?
People survive in warm climates, they die in cold climates, and they can't exist in cold climates because you have nothing to grow with.
Western and Northern Europe wouldn't mind some warming. Grapevines are coming back in Scotland. They would, if it got back to as warm as it was 1,000 years ago. Russia would like warming. Canada, northern latitudes of the United States would enjoy it. We have longer growing seasons.
And you get a longer growing season because if you grow things in a carbon dioxide atmosphere, you get more product. You have a shorter growing season because carbon dioxide is a nutrient.
Yeah,
it's a nutrient. It's a fertilizer. In fact, some of the experiments that I saw on Channel 11 here a couple of months ago showed developments of biofuels. And they're going to use algae. And guess what the fertilizer was?
What?
Carbon dioxide.
How do you like that? Well, you know what? We're going to have to do a wrap. And I'm wondering if Al Gore turns into our station, he may not, he may have a hard time with this one because this is a completely different viewpoint than he has given and some of the scientists. But I thought this was, I think, what we try to do on Cahnhmann's Current Events, we try to show the opposite side of things. I know this is your opinion. It doesn't mean it's, the only opinion, but I think they're pretty good opinions because we have not heard the other side, and we keep hearing one side only, and I think it's very good to hear both sides of the picture. It gives us a better understanding of what things really are and really are not. And I want to thank you both for joining us today.